Magma Darker here, and today we are actually going to be doing our first expanded deck profile. We are doing a Weavile Exeggcute Lopunny deck, and this deck is really complicated to play, and there are multiple ways to play it. So I may make a separate video telling you sort of how to play this deck, but we'll get right into the profile for now. We have 3 of this Sneasel. This is because it has 70 HP, so that's why we have more of those, so it's harder to knock out. And 1 of this Sneasel. This Sneasel's attack is obviously and understandably better, but it has less HP. So that's the problem with that Sneasel. That's why we only run 1. Also, for Weavile. So, there's a lot of things that are good about this card. First of all, it's a Team Plasma Pokemon, and that will come up later in the video. Its Hail attack isn't the best, but it's pretty good, does 10 to each of your opponent's Pokemon. But Vilify is where this deck is actually centered around. You can discard as many Pokemon from your hand as you want, and it does 30 damage times the number of Pokemon you discarded. So you discard 3 Pokemon, that does 90. And one of our key Pokemon is for Exeggcute. Because of its ability Propagation, you can put it into your hand from the discard pile. And also this works with Ultra Ball. So basically you can just Ultra Ball for free. Also, since N and Judge are they're coming, so is Red Card. They're all decent cards. 4 Baneri and 3 Lopunny. Now this Lopunny is kind of a card that nobody knows about, but its big jump ability is amazing. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may return this Pokemon and all cards attached to it to your hand. So this is not only like a float stone in terms of you can put it in your active position and then big jump, but also if the way you can beat Trevenant in the new format is, which if you're playing expanded, not very many people are playing Trevenant. They're probably playing Arceus Blastoise, but you can put down 2 Baneris and Lopunny, put it to the active, and then big jump, and just make sure that your opponent has more cards in their deck than you do, and they basically just end up decking out. So that's kind of how I beat Trevenant. And the reason I said keep in mind that Weavile is a Team Plasma Pokemon is these next 4 cards. My friend plays these exact same deck, only instead of these 4 cards, he plays 4 Deoxys EX from, I actually don't know what set it is, but it increases the damage of your Team Plasma Pokemon by 10. But I play 2 Sableye and 2 Jirachi. I don't play a really thick supporter lineup, so that's why I run Jirachi. And for Sableye, Junk Hunt, once you get a Weavile knocked out, is useful. You can put like 2 level balls in your hand or 2 Ultra Balls, and then next turn 2 Dark Patches. And then this deck was originally made before Versus Seeker was a thing. So this deck is, I believe, Flashfire is the newest cards in this deck. 4 Ultra Ball and 4 Level Ball. Level Ball is because Level Ball can search out every Pokemon in this deck. Unless you use Deoxys, the Deoxys build I talked about earlier, which in that case, Level Ball can't search out those. But that's it. Also, for Dark Patch, that's just, this is a primarily dark deck. All of our Pokemon that are good for attacking use Dark Energy, so Dark Patch is kind of an obvious staple. Also, 3 Starling Megaphone. That is a lot, because Garbodor is in Standard and Expanded right now, and Garbodor shuts down so much of our deck. It shuts down Exeggcute, Lopunny, Jirachi. It just shuts down a lot of stuff. So, this is good for getting those tools off of Garbodor. Also, since Versus Seeker wasn't really a thing at the time, and if you are going to run the Deoxys build, I would recommend changing these to Versus Seekers, to Palpad. That, like I said, Versus Seeker wasn't here at the time that I built this deck, and that this deck was really a thing. So, but if you're doing the Deoxys build, I recommend using Versus Seeker, because Jirachi's gonna search out those supporters you shuffle into your deck with Palpad. But if you're switching those out for Deoxys, then you might as well just use Versus Seeker. Also, to Super Rod, you're going to be discarding a lot of Pokemon and potentially a lot of energy. So, Super Rod is good for that. I wouldn't recommend using it with energy too much because we do have 4 Dark Patch, but if you need to, you need to. Also, 1 Random Receiver. If you're doing the Deoxys build, I would recommend changing this to a Versus Seeker too. Just same reason, because you're not going to be playing Palpad, so Versus Seeker is better. Also, since this is an old deck, we have an Ace spec, Scoop Up Cyclone. This works with Jirachi. If Captivating Pokepuff just came out, which if most expanded decks probably won't play it, but if you have Exeggcutes in your hand or something like that, you're going to want to put them back in your hand. Also, that enables you to use Stellar Guidance again. And then for our supporters, we have a thin supporter lineup. 4 Juniper, 2 Colress, 1 N, and 1 Lysandre. Pretty standard, like, supporter types, but most decks would also run, like, I don't know, a Hex Maniac, maybe another Lysandre, maybe a few more N. And this deck actually doesn't have any stadiums, so maybe if you're gonna be smart about it, maybe take out 2 of the 2 Colresses and put in like Parallel City or something. I don't know. I don't play any stadiums. I don't think many people do. And then energy 8, not 4. I don't know why I said 4. 8 dark energy, because basically everything that you're going to attack with, I don't even know why I'm explaining myself, but anything that you're going to attack with is going to use dark energy. So yeah, that is my Weavile, Exeggcute, Lopunny deck. I believe this is a similar list to the person who came up with the deck. His list that won Norwegian Nationals. I don't believe my list is the exact same, but his name is David Jensen. Shout out to him for coming up with this deck. But I don't know if he won in Norwegian Nationals or just made cut in Norwegian Nationals, but still. And that was the first time this deck was ever, heard of, basically. But now I see it being extremely popular, especially for people just for, regular old league play. Use this deck a lot. So, yeah. And this is probably one of my favorite decks because I love Exeggcute. Weavile's pretty cool. Sableye. I like Sableye, I like Jirachi. I don't really like Lopunny, but pretty much all these Pokemon in the deck I like. And so, yeah, this is probably my favorite expanded deck. Leave a like, subscribe, and keep on gaming.